everybody, it's Tara. Today I have a mashup of stuff for you, my December wrap-up, January TBR, and a book haul. TBR and wrap-up and haul, oh my! TBR and wrap-up and haul, oh my! Okay, Wizard of Oz is just too much on my mind lately. This is actually not the video I meant to film this week, so I haven't done any kind of prep for it. So it's going to be hopefully quick. Hopefully pretty casual. Hopefully I won't ramble on and on and on and on, because I do that when I don't prepare anything. But there's your warning, if this sucks, too bad. Let's start off with my December wrap-up. I know it's kind of early in the month to be doing a wrap-up, but I wanted to get most of my reading done in the first half of the month, so I did have time to do a wrap-up before I was done with BookTube. Because if you haven't heard, I'm gonna be done with BookTube after this month is done. So the first book that I read in December was Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. Who's surprised? This is gonna be super glary with this light if I move the book around, so we're just gonna... Muse of Nightmares is of course the follow-up to Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, which I read in October and I absolutely fell in love with. It immediately got a spot on my favorite shelf, and I immediately got Muse of Nightmares, even though I didn't let myself read it throughout November because NaNoWriMo. So December 1st, I finally got to start it, and I read it pretty quickly. I have to say I did not enjoy it as much as I did Strange the Dreamer. It was still a great book. Her writing style is one of the most beautiful I have ever read. G from Book Roast in a recent video of hers said something like, every other line is a work of art. And I totally agree. She just has a way with words, with prose, with description, with metaphor. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and it really is a work of art. But as for the story itself, I think it moved a little bit too slowly and covered too short a span of time in too many pages. And not a lot happened, I feel like. But what I really loved about Muse of Nightmares and about the series in general is that the scope of the story and the world starts out very small. You have this lost city of Weep, it's the big mystery, and then we actually get to see Weep. And it opens up this even bigger mystery. And as you go through Strange the Dreamer, there's more and more and more added to the world and to the mystery, to the story, and Muse of Nightmares continues that. It just makes the scope even bigger, and then even bigger, and then even bigger. And I love where the story went with the new characters that we meet in this book and with the new parts of this universe that we discover in this book. I love how it just kept getting grander and grander. I think it's just supposed to be a duology, but I really, really hope that someday she makes it into a third book, because there is that opportunity for this world to grow even more, for us to get to see more of what she has built with these two books. So Laini Taylor, if somehow you're seeing this, please, 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 please continue the series. Overall, I give Muse of Nightmares 4 stars. Again, it was not as breathtaking and captivating and spellbinding as Strange the Dreamer was, but I definitely enjoyed it. And the next book that I read in December was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm sure you are sick and tired of hearing about this book by now, because it's been one of the most hyped books on BookTube all year. And I was finally tired of hearing about it myself and had to read it. And I'm just gonna put this back here as well, because this is a library book, and you know that plastic cover really glares. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is basically the life story of Evelyn Hugo, who is an old Hollywood superstar, super famous for all the movies that she's done and for all the husbands that she's had. And in her 70s, I believe, she's finally ready to tell her life story, and she chooses a very unknown journalist out of nowhere to tell the story to. I've heard so many great things about this book this year, and I've heard a lot of different people say that this isn't something that they would typically pick up, but it blew their mind with how great it was. So I was really hoping to have my mind blown too, but I just didn't. I thought the writing style was pretty bland. There was just nothing special about it. And Evelyn Hugo, she's the protagonist of this book. She's the one that you want to relate to and then you want to have a connection with, and I didn't at all. She did start out her life on a very low point. She was poor, she was abused by her father, she lost her mother at a very young age, and that's all very sad. But then she becomes this super famous, super rich superstar. And at that point it was just boo-hoo, poor little rich girl. I just really could not feel any empathy for what she was going through whatsoever. The one thing I did like about this book was that I did not guess the twist at the end. From hearing other people talk about this book all year long, I had an idea of what this twist was gonna be, and I was wrong. So I'm really glad for that. However, The twist that was in this book, again, just didn't blow my mind. Didn't blow my mind. Overall, I would rate The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo 3 stars. I thought the book was okay. It was just okay. I don't understand what all the hype was about. I don't understand why everyone is giving this a 5-star rating. It was just okay. And the last book I've read this month so far is Brightly Burning by Alexa Donne. This is also a super shiny library book, so Brightly Burning is basically Jane Eyre in space. That's all I got for you. I've never read Jane Eyre. I'm not even really familiar with the story, so I didn't know what to expect in terms of plot or characters going into Brightly Burning. The reason I wanted to read this book is because Alexa Donne is also an author tuber. I've been watching her for a while. I love her videos. I find them very knowledgeable and helpful and insightful, and I agree with a lot of what she says, because there are some author tubers who I just don't agree with them, and that's fine, because writing is not a precise art. There are so many different ways writing can be done depending on the author. But with Alexa Donne, I do agree with her. I think she makes some great points, and I have taken a lot of her advice and how-tos to heart. So it was past time that I read her book, and I finally did. And I really didn't like it. I've said a few times on this channel in the past that I am not a big fan of YA. And when I say that I don't like YA, this type of book is what I'm talking about. The writing style, extremely generic, extremely plain, extremely boring. The main character, I just didn't care about. The romance? Was there a romance? There was supposed to be a romance, but I just did not see any chemistry between these two characters. I didn't really see when the feelings began. They were just there. And I got some really big 50 Shades of Grey vibes from this romance, particularly from the love interest. He had Christian Grey all over him in that he was just an asshole. He was drunk half the time. He ran hot and cold with how he treated the main character. He was, I don't want to say verbally abusive. He wasn't verbally abusive, but he was a jerk to her a lot of the time. And he tried to control her and manipulate her and use his power to do those things. And no. The plot itself, again, I just didn't care. I just didn't care. There was a reveal of stuff that I pretty much had guessed already, even not knowing anything about Jane Eyre. I was able to guess the big twist, the big reveal. About 150 pages from the end, I started seriously considering DNFing this book because I didn't care about any of it. I wasn't enjoying any of it, so why waste my time? But instead of DNFing it, I went through skimming most of the pages, skipping a lot of it, just trying to get the basic gist of what was going on. And by the time I got to the end, you know what? I really wish I had DNF'd it because even skimming just wasn't worth it. The ending was ridiculous and a huge ripoff of a TV show that I won't name because spoilers if you're gonna read this book. But I wouldn't recommend that you do read this book. I rate Brightly Burning a whole 2 stars. I'm very disappointed that I disliked this book as strongly as I did because, as I said before, I really like Alexa Donne as a person. I like her as an author tuber, and I think I will continue watching her videos because I think she has some great insight about the craft of writing. I just don't think she's a great writer. And now moving on to my January TBR. Even though I'm actually going to start reading these books this month, we're just going to call it my January TBR. And the next book that I plan to read is Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Renegades trilogy, and as such I can't really tell you a whole lot about this book, but the first book, Renegades, is set in a world in which some people are born with special abilities. And some of those people become renegades. They fight for what is right and for justice, and they're the lawmakers and the peacekeepers, but then there's another faction, the anarchists, who are against all that. Wow, this is why I usually prep my videos. The anarchists are against the renegades, and there's a small band of them still surviving after most of them were wiped out 10, 11-ish years ago, something like that. And the main characters are Nova, who is an anarchist, and Adrian! This is why I plan my videos. Renegades is another book that has gotten a lot of love on BookTube, and it's another book that I just didn't love as much as everybody else. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was definitely my least favorite of Marissa Meyer's, and I love Marissa Meyer. The Lunar Chronicles are one of my favorite series of all time. Heartless I really enjoyed as well. Renegades, I just didn't love it. But I am looking forward to reading Archenemies, and I am hoping that I will enjoy it more than I did Renegades. And once I'm done with that, I want to read Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. If you're noticing a trend here, Laini Taylor, I'm just so in love with Laini Taylor right now. I hope she's going to become one of my new favorite authors, but we'll see how I feel about this series. It is a YA series, unlike Strange the Dreamer, which I'm pretty sure was adult fiction, so I may not love it quite as much, but I am still really looking forward to getting that Laini Taylor, every other page is a work of art thing. The only thing I really know about this series is that there are angels and demons, and there's a mortal, I think, caught in the middle of this otherworldly war between them. Wow, what happened to this book? Oh no, it looks like a dog ate it or something. And the next book on my TBR is also YA, and that book is Warcross by Marie Lu. This book sounds a lot like one of my favorite books of all time, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, which is exactly why I want to read it. It centers on this virtual reality game that has become a way of life for everybody. And the main character is a hacker who accidentally hacks into the Warcross championship and is then hired by the creator of Warcross to act as a spy for some reason, conspiracies, plots, and such. This is why I plan my videos. This is another book that I have heard so much about on BookTube all year long, and it's been on my list for a long time. I don't know why it's taken me this long to get to it, but I thought it was finally time. So Warcross will be read in January. I don't expect to love it as much as Ready Player One, but who knows, stranger things have happened. And now we come to the book haul portion of today's mashup video, and the first book I want to show you was a birthday present from my husband, and that book is Harry Potter's Bookshelf, The Great Books Behind the Hogwarts Adventures by John Granger. Granger. Yeah? I'm just gonna read a little bit from the back of the book. This explores the literary landscape of themes and genres J.K. Rowling artfully wove throughout her novels and the influential authors and stories that inspired her. Now, this is an unauthorized book. It's not from J.K. Rowling herself, so I'm gonna take most of it with a grain of salt. This is John Granger's interpretation of what J.K. Rowling might have taken as inspiration and influence from classic literature. I think it will be an interesting read, not only as a Harry Potter fan, but as a writer, because there are chapters like narrative drive and genre, why we keep turning the pages, setting the familiar stage and scenery props of the drama, gothic romance, the spooky atmosphere formula from Transylvania. So I think it will have something to offer me as a writer, not just as a reader. Next up is Hollow City by Ransom Riggs, which is the second book of the Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children series. Again, I can't really tell you a whole much about this book because spoilers, but Miss Peregrine's is about a group of children who, again, have special abilities. And that's really all I want to tell you about the series because there's a lot of other aspects to it that I think you need to find out for yourself when you read the book. So that's all I'm going to say about it. Next up we have The Black Witch and the Iron Flower by Laurie Forrest. I really don't know a whole lot about these books, so I'm just going to take a minute and read the back of them before I try to explain it to you. This is why I prep my videos. So, The Black Witch follows Evelyn, whose grandmother was the last great Black Witch, and Evelyn herself is believed to be the next Black Witch of prophecy. But Evelyn has no magical ability in a society that prizes magical ability above anything else. So she tries to take control of her own destiny. She goes off to university to learn how to be an apothecary and follow her own dreams and desires, but she finds that the university might be the most treacherous place for the next Black Witch. The Black Witch and the Iron Flower were both gifted to me by my great friend Kaylee over at the Enchanted Library, who got to meet Laurie Forrest and interview Laurie Forrest at an event recently. She got these extra copies, so she was kind enough to give them to me. Thank you so much, Kaylee. From what I've heard about these books, they are quite controversial. There are themes of racism, discrimination that a lot of people did not like, but I can see the other side of the coin. Kaylee really enjoyed this book and really found a lot of thought-provoking material in it in terms of those themes. So I look forward to reading it and to forming my own opinions on that. I also recently acquired Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. I read Strange the Dreamer from my library. I wasn't even finished it before I ordered both of these books for myself because I knew I would have to have them. I've talked about these books enough already, so I'm not going to go into it again, but they are books that I have acquired recently, and that's why I'm showing them to you, because that's what you do in a book haul, right? Yeah. The next book I have to show you is A Spark of Light by Jodi Picoult. I've got to refresh my memory on this one too, because I have no idea what it's about. This book is set in a women's clinic that is under fire by a gunman who takes everyone inside hostage, and it's told from the POV of a few different characters, including the hostage negotiator on the outside and his 15-year-old daughter who is inside the clinic, as well as a Christian doctor and a pro-life protester and a pregnant woman who went to the clinic that day to terminate her pregnancy. The interesting thing about this book is that it's told in reverse. It starts at the end and works its way backwards to tell you how all the characters got to where they ended up. And the really interesting thing about that is that Jodi Picoult's first book, The Songs of the Humpback Whale, was told in the exact same format, which makes me a little scared that this is going to be her last book. Jodi Picoult is one of my favorite authors, and normally I would read her new book right away, but I'm not, because I am pregnant. And this book deals with a pregnant woman who wanted to end her pregnancy. Her last book, Small Great Things, dealt with the death of a newborn baby, and I read that a couple months after I had my son, which was not good. So I'm not going to do that to myself again. I'm putting this book off until further notice. And last but not least, Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin, which weighs about 10 pounds, so it's going on the shelf too. Fire and Blood is a companion book to the A Song of Ice and Fire series, or as you might know it, Game of Thrones series, and it follows the history of the Targaryen family all the way back to Aegon the Conqueror 300 odd years ago. We've gotten glimpses of the Targaryen history throughout the books, and we got a lot more than glimpses in the World of Ice and Fire. This much of the book is dedicated to Targaryen family history, but apparently there's more. Fire and Blood goes into a lot more detail and is supposed to answer some big questions like why was Valyria so dangerous after the Doom, and where did Daenerys' 3 dragon eggs come from? I thought Fire and Blood was going to be laid out like the World of Ice and Fire, in that it is told as a book in the world by a maester and it has all this amazing artwork, but it's not, unfortunately. It is just a plain text book. I'm not sure when I'm going to get to it. I do plan to reread books 4 and 5 of A Song of Ice and Fire in 2019, so maybe in 2020 I will get to it. But it's in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. Of course I had to get it immediately. So that is it for this hodgepodge mashup, little bit of everything, tying up loose ends video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down below what you read this month, what you're planning to read in January, and what book you bought last. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and until next time, happy reading. Bye-bye.